Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. All
All
right,
right.
folks. We are live again. Hey Tyler.
Welcome to
Long time
stream.
no no long time no talk to.
Yeah,
Um
it's been a crazy week over here.
it has been, man. But hey, I appreciate all the stuff that you are doing. Um so it's been fun. So I guess today I guess we wanted to talk about a couple of things.
Mhm.
So one, want to know like anything that's on your mind you want to talk about. And then two, I'm going to talk about and demo a new feature that we have inside of dSIPRouter. It's basically an agent that allows you to um, basically push all of your DIDs from FreePBX into dSIPRouter. That way you don't have to manually do it. So we've had an integration for Fusion for a long time um, that does like more of like syncing domains and things of that nature, but we don't have anything that really syncs to DIDs. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. And then lastly, I guess we'll talk about anything that's on the top of our mind or anything we want, anything that we're excited about. But any announcements from you, I guess, Tyler, before we get started?
Yeah, so the first announcement is we have a Slack channel and it's actually being used, believe it or not. Every day we're in there, we're answering questions. The Slack channel will be in the show notes below. Please come check us out. Drop by, say hi, ask us any of your questions. We'll be there. Um, so I did have a couple things, just a few notes for the project. So we found a few bugs that we're working on. I know some people are getting frustrated with those. So we found some issues with the MS Teams module, and we're trying to make that better right now. We're working on that. Give us a little bit of time. We are also working on an issue with the ultradict dependency. So those two issues, I know we've had a couple comments on that. We're working on those actively. We'll get it fixed out to you as quick as possible. Um, so I just want to put those two notes in there. I think the agent sounds really interesting, though. We haven't talked about FreePBX in quite a while here.
Yeah, I think we have a lot. Obviously, there's obviously more free PBX users out there than anything. So I think that it's time, that we start showing and spending some time with our um, with the free PBX folks out there and providing something that I think will get them excited and actually I think it'll probably um, speed up their time. So I want to so we'll jump right into it. Let me
Okay.
share my screen and then I'm going to just talk through this a little bit. So I'll
Ready for some dangerous
do
demos.
man dangerous demos always. So we'll be switching between a couple of screens, but let me start with like free PBX here. So um as you can see here, this is a free PBX system that many of you who are free PBX users will see. Typically, when you're setting up a free PBX system, and this is for people that have like, multiple free PBX systems, because typically someone who's starting off to be a SIP provider, they kind of fall into this a lot of cases. So they'll stand up a free PBX system and they'll do it for one customer, and then at some point they say, hey, this is a great business model. And what happens is they start having a whole bunch of FreePBX servers out there. And it becomes, there's a bunch of different use cases, but probably the use case I'm going to focus the most on is the situation where, each one of these FreePBX systems you set up, you have to go set up the carrier information inside of those systems. All right. And this module doesn't help with that, but one of the key things here is what dSIPRouter does is allows you to centralize it. So now instead of setting up your carrier information in every one of your FreePBX servers, you can actually set it up in once in dSIPRouter, and then all of your FreePBX servers will communicate and route traffic through that. And though that's great, you still have a situation where if dSIPRouter is handling your traffic, then you need to be able to handle DIDs, like inbound DIDs that come in. So what tends to happen is that as you're setting up systems and you put in a couple DIDs, which I have here, you then need to, and we'll see if this works. I'm going to share this tab instead. Did that work? You can see my dSIPRouter tab now.
Yep, we're at dSIPRouter now.
Oh, cool. All right, that's beautiful. So what happens is then you need to then come into inbound routes and then basically add those DIDs there and then route it to your dSIPRouter instance. And this, for those who aren't familiar with dSIPRouter, there's a whole concept of an endpoint group and a carrier group. So carrier groups is where you connect with carriers. Endpoint groups is where you connect with and basically this is usually the servers that you're supporting. So your PBXs, you could have devices sitting off of it. So I have
all your media services.
Perfect way of saying it. All your media services that sit off of that. And so I have a my dev FreePBX server registered here. This is FreePBX dSIPRouter.net. All the good stuff that's there. So that's all there. But back to really the problem in hand is that I have my DIDs set up inside FreePBX. Now, how do I get these here? So if you have,
Mac, we have an import button.
Yes, we do. Good call. We got an import button. So you could go and export those from your FreePBX system, which I think you can do. Tyler, let's go see. Let's share this again. So yeah, I guess what you could do, you could go to the bulk handler there, and I guess you could export your DIDs. But guess what? You have to do that every time you have some new DIDs. So what we want to do is, or you have to add each one, right? So nobody wants to do that. That's no fun. So what we want, so the problem we're solving here is really having it so that your FreePBX system can automatically send these DIDs to dSIPRouter. So that is what we're introducing today. So let me go and reshare my screen here. So we know this. Remember this really quickly. We have two DIDs here. So 4000 and 0408. And we need to get those over to your dSIPRouter instance. So remember that. So, all right, let's go over and stop this screen. And then we're going to share our terminal.
This is where it gets good, when the terminal comes out.
That's right, Tyler. This is where it gets good. All right. So I'm on my my terminal here. And so there's a couple of things here. So a couple of things. So in order to be able to, well, let me introduce you to the actual tool. So this is what we call dSIPRouter CLI. This CLI actually has a couple different features currently. So right now you can do leases, so short-lived SIP credentials. I always talk about that. Nobody seems to care as much as I do about that. Okay, that's okay. Inbound mapping. This is where you can configure DIDs like one-off. Like you could tell it that, hey, I want to configure a DID. Like I could go and do just one off. And I think it's going to tell me, okay, I got to give it a couple args. I got to give it the DID phone number. I got to give it the endpoint group ID, which is 27 in this case. I didn't point that out to you. And then the name of the phone number that you want. But we're not going to use that because that means I'll manually have to do that. But what we're going to use is the agent component. So this is the ability to sync the media server data with dSIPRouter. So how this works is that it actually is connecting to FreePBX running on this box, grabbing all of the actual DIDs, and then pushing those via the dSIPRouter API over to dSIPRouter or your instance of dSIPRouter. So let's go ahead and run it, and then I'll get into a little bit more detail. So in this case, the dSIPRouter CLI has support for FreePBX. At some point, we'll probably add support for other media systems, probably media servers, primarily probably Fusion as well. But for right now, it just has FreePBX. So the arguments is basically the type of media server and then the FreePBX ID, or I'm sorry, the endpoint ID on dSIPRouter. So a couple things. So if you don't provide a endpoint ID, it's going to yell at you and say either you provide it or you'll need to put it as an environment variable. Okay. On that note, there's also two environment variables that make all this work. There's a dSIPRouter token, which is basically API key, and then there's also the dSIPRouter host name. So that specifies where your server is. But those are set right now in my environment variables. But let's go ahead and put 27 in and let's see what happens here. This is where the dangerous part happens. All right. So it I have a dummy DID number built in somewhere. Where do I have this? I have a dummy DID number built into the client. So that's why it's adding an extra one. It was more from my testing. But you can see here, it's adding these two. So we'll go back. Now we'll go over to dSIPRouter. So let me stop my screen here and then present again. And we'll be back onto the Chrome tab that has our, here I'll go right to that one. So now we're here. And let me go ahead and refresh my inbound routes. So now you can see that that now the numbers are there. So now you don't have to do this. Now magically you can set this up as a cron tab. I've been going back and forth. Should it be a cron tab? Should we just run in a loop? I don't know yet. Probably just start off in the cron tab. But that is how you would do it. Now, and also, one other thing is that I'm going to add to this that is going to automatically do a reload. I've been going back and forth from that. It may just be an option. Tyler, this is what I'm kind of thinking. Maybe I'll just make it an option so that when you run the API, you can put in a hyphen reload, so it'll do a reload. Or if it doesn't have an option, then it'll make it so that you have to reload. I kind of feel like the default should just be reload, but I don't know how people feel about that. You know what I mean? Because it will change, obviously, what happens. So,
yeah. So our default on the dSIPRouter system is do all the changes and then let the user decide when to reload. I think that's probably where people want to go, because you want to have your system stable and running, at the same way as you configured it for as long as possible until you get to your maintenance window, and then you go, okay, let's apply our changes, test everything out.
Yeah. I think you're right. I'll put an option in there for reload, because some people may be like, now that it's tested, now every time I add a DID, I want it to automatically, be added to the system. Now,
so I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So like the workflow for this tool, this is obviously a push tool, pushing from FreePBX to dSIPRouter. How would the clients be integrating this? So I'm Joe Schmo. I want to put this on my FreePBX box. Do they got to download and compile it on each FreePBX box, or is the plan in the future to make it a pull type of model where you just hook up your dSIPRouter instance?
Yeah, so the way I'm thinking of it right now is that they would go download the dSIPRouter agent, and then they'll just run it on their machine, and it'll push. Now, but I think down the road we want to do two-way sync. The problem with the two-way sync is that you kind of have to maintain some state somewhere in order to kind of figure that out. Um, but um, but yeah, that's the one thing. I'm just looking for feedback, to be honest, on how should we handle that, because if we look at what we do with Fusion today, it is a push to dSIPRouter. So I wanted to kind of, and we don't really you can't delete any of the domains. You can, but they'll oh no, actually you can't delete those domains
Isn't
unless you
Fusion a
actually
poll? Because
it's
we're
a it's
connecting to the Fusion database.
Yes, you're right. It is a pool, but in that case, though, we're pushing the data to them. Like we're pulling the data, but we're not giving them the ability to change it. Like for instance, like you can't go into dSIP
Yeah.
router, change a domain, and then it pushes down to Fusion. Um, so that's
Okay.
the thing. Now, I think, now that you said that, I get your question now. Basically,
Mhm.
would we flip it so that dSIPRouter would be doing a pull? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Just wondering, like, the
Yeah,
intent for that architecture
yeah,
and going forward,
yeah,
what you're looking to push it into.
yeah. The problem is that there's no there's no API on that side that there is an API, but then somebody has to expose it to us in order to use it. Let's just say they're using FreePBX, and I know FreePBX has a REST API. I'll have to look at the details, but I'm not sure if it's
Mhm.
on by default or not. So we would actually have to signal to it to grab the DIDs, which isn't a bad idea. I just don't know how many people are exposing it. So I don't know. That's one of the things we'll think about. Please, people who are listening to this, give us feedback. These are all the different ways. Like, as you know, Tyler, this came up out of, like, we were working with a customer that has multiple free PBX systems, and like they need to, like, in their new PBX system, so they need to actually have DIDs populated inside of free PBX, because free PBX needs to understand where to route those calls to. And
Mhm.
now they're kind of, this is a situation where now we need to populate dSIPRouter, and we're like, oh my God, this is going to be a lot of work, especially if there's a lot of flux. So we're like, oh, okay, let's come up with this agent to be able to push this stuff to dSIPRouter. But there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that I think we need to figure out, like which way do people really want, what do people really want, and how they want the interface to be.
Yeah, that's very useful. I mean, I think we probably have a few things there we can look at in the future after we get some feedback on it. But if you have a customer has 10,000, 100,000 DIDs, or you're just doing a new PBX and you got to split like 5,000 DIDs over to this one, that's kind of a pain if you need to move those around, right?
Yeah, one of the things I thought about here is that since we're giving them an AP, since basically there's an API key that they're using to connect, we could, because right now what has to happen is that you got to go into dSIPRouter, and you have to basically create your endpoint group. So that 27, what I talked about is this ID here of the endpoint group. But just imagine that since they haven't the API key, we could have it automatically register that endpoint group and automatically set up the DIDs as well. So, you know what I mean? So it'll be more of like, all
Hmm.
right, you drop this agent on, it'll automatically, set up that that free PBX system inside of dSIPRouter, and any DIDs you have, it'll also populate those up. So now it becomes really easy to automate the deployment of free PBX with dSIPRouter being in the middle. So
Yeah, it seems like a good next step there. Connect,
yeah.
create the endpoint group if it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, and this one
So
other thing here,
yeah, go
one
ahead.
other thing, then I'll stop talking because we're running against time here a little bit. Is that I'm going to present one more time, and Window. Is this the right one? No, this is the right one. Share. All right. So let's just say I run this again. I haven't added no more DIDs, but
Okay.
it will not insert duplicate DIDs. So which is great. So this way you won't have a situation of duplicate DIDs. And this is where the tricky part comes at. If we really wanted to move DIDs between systems, we could, you know, delete the DID on one system, and then we delete it here. We detect that, oh, okay, it's been deleted. Delete it, and then we could put it on another system, and then it would actually add it to another system, as long as it's not already added to dSIPRouter under another endpoint group ID. So, I mean, we could do some dynamic stuff. We just have to figure out how do we want to handle, when do we detect something being deleted or not, and all that good stuff. But I just wanted to throw that out there. So for people who might be wondering, how do we handle duplicates? Right now, the API does not allow you to add duplicate DIDs. So anyway, so I'll stop there.
Yeah. Thanks for the demo. That was really informative.
Oh, no problem, man. This is good stuff. I'm excited about it.
I think it's really interesting, this the idea of like managed DIDs and taking some of these features that you normally have on the media servers and then abstracting them over on dSIPRouter. We've talked about a few other things that, domains was the first one we tackled, but I think there's a few other things that we can do there, kind of expanding that idea.
Yeah, and for those who are wondering, we'll probably do the same thing on the Fusion side, so we can do DIDs as well. So just FYI for people who might, for Fusion, it is a big deal, but most people have, like what we've seen, they have a cluster of a few, like they'll have a cluster configuration in Fusion PBX. So all their DIDs go to one server, one virtual IP. So it's not that big of a deal. But when you have FreePBX, which is a single domain system, basically, even though they don't have a concept of domains, but it's just a single set of extension.
Not multi-tenant.
Not multi-tenant. Yeah, it becomes interesting, right? Because now you're going to have multiple of these set up. So that's why I think this particular feature is going to hit different for people who are on FreePBX. So.
Yeah, I think most people are using that goes with deep domain routing with the Fusion side. So it's basically like passing through. And all those are managed on the Fusion side right now. But I think there's probably a few use cases where people don't want to use domain routing and they want to still manage those DIDs and use Fusion. So, or just vanilla FreeSwitch. That if we support, like out of the box, the FreeSwitch and Asterisk APIs, then should translate over to the Fusion and FreePBX.
That's a good point, Tyler. I guess, because out of the box, FreeSwitch are all config files. And so we could, if we wanted to, I guess we would have to look at the
you do have the SQL DB. So by default, you still have that internal SQL DB that FreeSwitch is using.
But I think that's only for registrations, though. So I think, like, for DIDs, this is a good question. Actually, I gotta go do work, because I think for FreeSwitch, you got the Sophia profile, Sophia SIP profiles, which basically specifies what the trunks are. But when a call comes in, they hit a dial plan. So I guess you would have to, like, search through the SIP profiles that you have, external ones, and then go to the actual dial plans that contains, and then grab the phone numbers and then push those up to dSIPRouter. So a lot of people use regular expressions, so we would have to figure that out, how to do that. But I mean, the thing is, I think there's a lot of different opportunities here for this. So, all right, so that's that. I'm gonna start with like what I'm excited about, and then you can close it out with what you're excited about. I'm super excited of going to AstraCon. So we are going to figure out that whole thing and what we're gonna do around that. Like I know we'll be there, but like what capacity we'll be there in, we're gonna figure that out very soon. But super excited to do that. And then Chameleon World is coming up. Super excited. And quite honestly, I wanted to also get this particular integration going and ready so that we can do a couple iterations on it before AstraCon. And this will be one of the things that we'll be touting about and demoing, and we'll probably come up with some demo and things of that nature around this for AstraCon. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm also very excited about the work we're doing right now. We're really doing some really dope work with one of our customers, and I'm just appreciative that everybody who's working on all the good stuff. I mean, Tyler, obviously you're knocking stuff out. We added another team member to our team, so I'm excited about that, and we're just gonna keep rocking. So that's what I'm excited about. How about you?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I'm excited. The most exciting thing to me has been building out a bunch of carrier infrastructure in the last 2 months, or yeah, I mean it's kind of been over like the last 3 months, but yeah, it's been super interesting figuring out all the scaling issues and finding weird bugs in modules that you didn't realize were there. I think it's just really, really fun.
That's dope. No, that's really dope. That's really dope. All right. Well, hey, I once again, Tyler and I really appreciate you jumping on. Many of you are going to be looking at this on a replay on YouTube. We'll make sure there's some notes there. Also, I'll also put a link to the dSIPRouter, this new module we have. I think I'm gonna do a quick write-up on it real quickly, and then we'll put it there so that you can grab it. It's available now, so go off, play with it. You do need to have a dSIPRouter subscription because you'll need to use the API. But for those out there who are thinking about using dSIPRouter, you can always go to our website. You can do a 7-day trial, and then you can try it out that way. For those who are already subscribers, thank you so much, and you can be able to use this without a problem. So that's it.
All right. Do we have on the demo server? Do we have the API? I think we have that already hooked up on there. So that's another place that you guys can, if you just look at the demo server, dSIPRouter.org, there's a big check out the demo button on the top left. You should be able to use that API to test out and just check out things.
That is the other good thing. Yes, and that API key I think is published there. If not, we'll make sure it's there so you can grab it. So, all right. Take care, folks. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.